Hello everyone. Let me introduce myself. I am R. Rajeshwaran, qualified cost and management accountant, secured All India 39th rank in my CMA final exams in December 2019. So I have qualified in recent examination, that is past CMA attempt. So this this particular video, right now I'm practicing as an right now I'm working as a tutor in this GC Rao Academy, where I took my CMA coachings in GC Rao Academy itself. So for what reason this MCQ videos are being recorded? See, this attempt is entirely into online based mode. That is, you're going to focus more on MCQs. So MCQs means you can't expect it is going to be a normal question which is going to be solved. Like, you can't expect it to be the MCQ which is being given in the previous attempt. So this time MCQ is going to be a bit harder, or your MCQ is going to be in the level you get for 4 marks, that your 4-mark question, 8-mark question will be converted into MCQs. Only your final step should be given as your multiple choice question. That is, they'll give you 4 options. You have to select your final question. So see, students are having different emotions because of this online based mode. Some are feeling frustrated, some are feeling nervous, some are feeling it is very advantage because they might be good at MCQs. They are not good at presenting the answer. So those people will feel this online based mode is one advantage. So how to take this online based mode is, see, even if you sit and worry because it is online mode, I have prepared for descriptive basis, I have prepared for descriptive mode, it is not going to help you. Whereas if you are doing some kind of smart work right now, and if you are focusing on how to prepare for this online mode, then you can crack the exam with nice marks. See, scoring 250 plus is not a difficult one, but with the right efforts, you can easily score minimum required marks, and you can even score 250 plus. So what my suggestion is for this online based mode is, first finish off all your chapters. All the concepts you should be thorough with all the concepts. Then you just give a glance of all these videos which are being given by GC Rao Academy as an initiative for this CMA students who are writing this online attempt. So how it is going to help you is, you can secure minimum of 80% of your MCQ marks. That is, if suppose your MCQ is given for 60 marks in your costing and your paper number 10, then you can score at least 80% of the 60 marks easily by going through this MCQ portal PDF which has been uploaded by the institute in the institute website. So you just go through all the MCQs, watch the videos. After finishing the concepts, that is, after finishing all the chapters, only you should move on to this MCQ. You can't straightly study this MCQ and expect it to be easy in the examination. You can't answer MCQs in the examination. First thing, basic prerequisite is you should prepare all the chapters without leaving any chapters in all the 8 subjects for inter. If you are going for only 4 subjects, then it is also fine. Just finish off all the 4 subjects, give some more importance to this MCQ so that you can secure that minimum marks very easily. Then one more thing for this online based mode is, see, you cannot expect how the question paper is going to be. Even any faculties who have been teaching for n number of years, they are being confused. They are in confusion that how this online based mode is going to work. So the thing is, this is going to be a first attempt for students as well as for teachers who are training the students for the CMA exam. So what you can do is, you just give your preparations to your best, do your preparations at your level best, then go to your exam, be calm and write all the answers, answer maximum number of questions, and then just sit back. Because this online based mode, they have announced only 40 days, 50 days earlier to the examination. So you would have done preparations for descriptive mode. So it is like, preparing for descriptive mode is also it is also going to benefit you in this online mode, where you can use the descriptive mode of thinking fastly in the calculator itself. That is, if suppose they have given a marginal costing question, you can easily solve that question in your calculator itself, and you can save your time. So the maximum benefit that you are going to derive is from this time saving only. Because of this online mode, only you are going to give your final answer. So the stepwise marks which are being allotted for the previous attempt is not there for this particular online based mode exam. So that is one main advantage for this online based mode exam. And don't be very nervous about answering, or don't click random answers. Just give your options very clearly. When you are clear with your answer, just give your answer. If you are not clear also, don't leave the question. At the end, if you don't know the answer, just select the appropriate answer which you think is right and come out of the exam hall. So this is the first attempt for everyone through this online based mode. So students who are doing nice preparations can easily, not easily, you can't use the word easily, but you can use the word their hard work will be benefited by getting an all India rank if they are giving correct preparation time. That is, if you are doing right preparation with right smart work, then you can definitely take all India rank. There is no hurdles in securing all India rank, that too through this online based mode examination. So moving on to the paper number 10. So this particular video, I'm going to handle this paper number 10. So next few days, you are going to receive the videos through the YouTube channel of GC Rao Academy, that is Gowda Chalpati channel. So what you should do is watch the videos every day so that you can at least secure that marks, 80% marks, and also get strong over your basics. That is, if suppose you have studied your marginal costing, if I am solving a particular marginal costing some MCQ in this particular portal, MCQ portal PDF, then I will explain you what is marginal costing so that it will be like a revision for that particular topic also. So after finishing a topic, daily spend 2 hours of your time for this particular video and then get benefited. That's it. So moving on to the paper number 10, costing and FM. So that is the paper which I'm going to handle now. So I'll just tell you what is this paper number 10 and how to prepare for this paper number 10. Then we'll move on to the MCQ. So this is the index of our own GC Rao Academy material. So we have a separate material for the CMA Inter as well as CMA Final. So students will receive this hard copy and they'll be solving the entire sums from this GC Rao Academy material only. So only if you solve all this sums, you can easily secure 80 marks out of 100. That all the 80 marks will be asked from this material. You will be solving all the previous examination questions, and also you will be getting all the important concepts which should be definitely solved in the classroom. Everything will be, and whatever the sums you are getting in this material, it will be solved in the classroom itself. So basically, what is this paper number 10 is? Costing and FM. So there are two segments in this paper number 10. One is cost and management accounting, which is for 50 marks, and the other segment is financial management, which is also for 50 marks. So costing and management accounting, you would have already studied all the concepts under this particular segment in paper number 4 itself. If you are going for both the groups together, or if you have already written your group 1, this particular section A is going to be an easy topic for you in order to revise during this examination, because you have already covered this in the group 1. So this decision making tools is nothing but marginal costing. Budgetary control, you would have already solved all the problems in paper number 4. And standard costing also you have already solved in paper number 4. So all these 3 topics are repeated. And transfer pricing is one small topic which is important for the final also. So just go through this transfer pricing properly. It will help you in SFM also. So next is uniform costing is also a small topic, and learning curve is a topic which you will get in the OM also, that is operations management. So all these are costing and management accounting, which is for 50 marks. So if you are thorough with paper number 4, then you can just revise all these chapters and just move on to the financial management. So basically what students will think is, as far as I know, like when the students who studied with me and also right now my juniors, everyone feels that section A is important to clear. Section A is more than enough to clear this paper number 10, because they have already studied all these topics under paper number 4, cost accounting. They feel that only this section A is enough to secure 40 marks so that they can clear the paper. But that is not the case. Without section B, financial management, I can write and give, you can't clear the paper. So financial management is very, very important from final point of view also, that is CMA final, strategic financial management. For that paper, this is the base. So right now, if you are not studying this financial management properly, if you are not covering all the topics in the financial management, you are going to face so much of struggles in the CMA final group 3 paper, that is SFM, strategic financial management paper. For that paper, all the basics or these financial management topic which is being dealt in the paper number 10. So both the segments are very important. Prepare properly, give some right amount of time, solve the questions using the calculator itself. My suggestion for this online based mode is you should not put the notes and solve all the answers. Just if it is easy, if you can solve the particular question in the calculator itself, then use the calculator and just mark the right answer so that you can save your time. So that is from the subject point of view. Then moving on to the MCQ. Now, how I'm going to deal this MCQ is, see, this last 40 days are very important time for your preparation. So I don't want to waste your time. What I'm going to do is, we'll take 1 to 1.5 minutes for each MCQ, so that in this particular costing and management accounting and financial management, we'll just clear it off entire topic as soon as possible. What you should do is, you watch the video, you have a hard copy of all this MCQ, so that you can mark and write the reasons for that answer, so that you won't forget that during the exam. So that is how we are going to prepare this costing and financial management MCQ. So this particular PDF, that is for MCQ, they have uploaded in MCQ portal, which is in the institute website. For all the 8 papers, they have uploaded what are all the different MCQs available for each subject. That is, if you go to the institute material, institute website, you will have that courses in that e-knowledge sources. You will find this MCQ portal. In that MCQ portal, we have downloaded this paper number 10. That is for this costing and management accounting and financial management. They have uploaded a specific PDF that is for MCQ itself. So using that, we are going to solve all the PDF. Sorry, all the MCQs in this particular PDF. So first we'll solve cost and management accounting, then we'll move on to the financial management. So in the cost and management accounting, we'll first finish off this choose. So choose is nothing but in the 4 given alternatives, you have to choose one best alternative, that is appropriate one alternative out of the 4 alternatives. So this is a part of MCQ. So first we'll move on to the question number 1. Type of accounting which measures, reports, analyze non-financial information and financial information to help in decision making is called. See, accounting which measures, analyze and report. Accounting itself is measuring, analyzing and reporting. It measures, analyze and report non-financial and financial information. See, a report which is measuring both financial and non-financial information is nothing but a management accounting. And also it helps in decision making. So management accounting is helping in decision making. So what is the use of management accounting? It helps the management in taking right decisions. So decision making. So management accounting fulfills both the category, that is non-financial and financial information. Management accounting takes into consideration both financial and non-financial information and also helps in decision making. So the right option is option number B, that is management accounting. Whereas financial accounting doesn't take into consideration the non-financial information. So option A is out. Then cost accounting doesn't take into consideration non-financial information. That is also out. Green accounting is nothing but a separate accounting which is used for this green, like it is a separate accounting like Go Green accounting. So this is also not in the option. So option number B is the right option. Next, moving on to the next bit mark, that is question number 2. Which one of the following is not considered as method of transfer pricing? So basically, what is transfer pricing? Transfer pricing is nothing but a product which has been transferred internally in the inter-department itself. For that, they will price it. For pricing that particular product which has been transferred internally is called transfer pricing. So how will they price the transfer pricing? Either based on their market price or based on the opportunity cost which is lost for producing the product and selling it in the outside market. So when a particular company, 2 departments are there, department A and department B, and product X has been produced and transferred to department B itself. It is being produced by department A and it has been transferred internally to department B. And what is the price which is to be fixed by department A? That is called transfer pricing. And how will they fix the transfer price? Either through market price. Suppose instead of transferring it to the department B, if they sell it in the outside market, what is the price they are going to get? That is called market price based transfer pricing. And on another option is, instead of using the market price based transfer pricing, they can also use whatever the resource which has been used to produce that product X by the department A. If suppose that resource is used for some other product, what is the opportunity loss? Opportunity cost is nothing but the lost business. So what is the opportunity cost which has been lost by doing some other business with the outside market is called opportunity cost based transfer pricing. So you can use that opportunity cost based transfer pricing also as a method of transfer pricing. Next is negotiated transfer pricing, which is nothing but department A and department B will sit and negotiate for fixing the transfer pricing. That is for fixing the transfer price of a particular product. So all these three are different methods of transfer pricing, whereas this fixed cost based transfer pricing is not a transfer pricing method. How can you price a product using the fixed cost? Using variable cost, you can at least price a product. That is nothing but marginal cost based transfer pricing. Whereas fixed cost is fixed in total. You cannot fix the transfer price using that fixed cost. So that is the right option, option number C. Next is question number 3. In cost accounting, purpose of variance analysis is to. So basically, what is variance analysis? First, you need to know what is variance analysis. Variance analysis is nothing but a standard costing which compares the standard cost and the actual cost in order to analyze the variances. So what is standard cost? Standard cost is fixed at a particular before production of a particular product. That is, if suppose in a particular year for 2013-14, if company A is going to start a production, then they will set a standard at the beginning of the year that how much of input is required and what is the standard price which is been for which has been purchased. Both will be set in the beginning of the year itself before starting the production, which is called standard cost for producing the actual output. Then after finishing the production at the end of the year, the total cost which has been spent is called actual cost, and total quantity which has been input is called actual quantity. And what is the price per unit for which it has been purchased is called actual price. So when you compare the standard cost with the actual cost, if there is any positive value, that is, if standard cost is more than actual cost, then you have spent less amount. It is called favorable position. Whereas your standard cost is 10,000 and your actual cost spent is 15,000, then you have spent extra 5,000. That is called 5,000 adverse. Adverse means you are in the negative position, whereas positive position means favorable. So what they are in cost accounting, purpose of variance analysis is to, for what the variance analysis is fine. Option A, what they have given, understand reasons for variances. So that is the right option. You can understand the reasons for variances if you are doing variance analysis. Then take remedial measures. So after finding the variances, you can take a remedial measure, and so you can improve your future performance. So variance analysis are basically analyzed and which is being used in order to improve your future performance. Cost accounting itself is being done only to improve your future performance. So all three options are right. So the correct option is option number D, that is all of the above. So moving on to the next question, question number 4. Absorption costing is also known as, see what is absorption costing? Absorption costing is nothing but absorbing the total cost over the number of units. That is called absorption costing. So how are you going to absorb the cost is, you are going to calculate the total cost by absorbing both variable cost and also fixed cost over the number of units. So absorption costing is also known as total costing. It is going to include all the costs, that is variable and also semi-variable and fixed. So absorption costing is nothing but total costing. So right option is that is option number A, total costing. Next, moving on to the next question. Question number 5. Which of the following is not correct with regard to margin of safety? So what is meant by margin of safety? Margin of safety is a part of a sales. That is, sales will be segregated into two parts. One is BEP and other one is margin of safety. Up to BEP sales is called no profit, no loss. And margin of safety is called sales from which you are recurring your profit. That is, from sales from which you are receiving a profit is called margin of safety. That is C. Out of your total sales, till your BEP sales, there will be no profit, no loss. You will be recovering your fixed cost. Anything beyond your BEP sales is called margin of safety sales. So total sales minus BEP sales is called margin of safety sales. So what they have asked in the question number 5 is, which of the following is not correct with regard to margin of safety they have asked. So you have to see which and all is correct and omitted, and we should find which is not correct. So first, point number A, option A, margin of safety is equal to profit divided by PV ratio. So see, what is meant by PV ratio? Contribution ratio. So if you divide your profit divided by PV ratio, you will get your margin of safety. That is, if you divide your fixed cost divided by PV ratio, you are going to get your BEP. and profit divided by PV ratio, you are going to get your MOS. Both BEP and MOS put together is your total sales. And total sales into PV ratio, you're going to get your contribution, which is nothing but summation of fixed cost plus profit. So profit divided by, if you have your hard copy material, just put a slash here. That is profit divided by PV ratio is nothing but margin of safety. So that is right. Point number B, that is option B, is margin of safety is equal to total sales minus sales at BEP. So what is your total sales? From that, if you take off your BEP sales, you're going to get margin of safety sales. So that is also correct. Next, point number C, total sales minus BEP sales. That is, this 100 and all they have printed wrongly. MOS is equal to total sales minus sales at BEP. So that is same as option D, same option. So that is also right. Next, option number D, margin of safety is equal to PV ratio into sales minus fixed cost. So what you're going to get? Contribution. From contribution, if you deduct your fixed cost, you are going to get profit. You are not going to get margin of safety. Only if you divide profit divided by PV ratio, you will get margin of safety. Here, what they are doing is PV ratio into sales minus fixed cost. So the ultimate answer is going to be profit. It is not going to be margin of safety. So option number D is the right answer. Option number D. The right answer for question number 5 is option number D. Next, question number 6. Which one of the following is not to be considered for preparing a production budget? See, what is meant by production budget? Production budget is nothing but a budget prepared for production of goods. That is, if suppose a company is producing a good, then for producing the number of goods, that is for producing goods, they will prepare a production budget at the beginning of the period itself. That is called production budget. And for preparing production budget, they will use other details. So which of the following is not considered for preparing? So you should find which will be considered for preparing and find which will not be considered for preparing. That will be the right answer. So for question number 6, evaluate one by one. Option A, the production plan of the organization. Without knowing the production plan of the organization, how can you prepare a production budget? So it is required for preparing production budget. So option number A is not the right answer. Next, option number B, sales budget. See, from sales budget only you will get what is the total number of sales which is going to be made in the particular year. From that, if you take off already lying finished goods, you will get the required number of production of goods. So that sales budget is also required for preparing production budget. Without knowing sales budget, how many number of units you are going to prepare for production budget? Then without knowing sales budget, if you are preparing your production budget is not going to be effective. So sales budget is also required. Next, point number C, that is option C, research and development budget. What is this research and development budget? Budget which has been allocated and prepared for expenses on research and development. This research and development is no way going to affect the production budget. See, suppose research and development budget, you are keeping amount of 1 lakh for research and development budget, or if you are keeping 1 crore for research and development budget, your research and development budget is not going to affect your production budget. So the right answer for question number 6 is research and development budget. Then option D is availability of raw materials. Without knowing the availability of raw materials, how can you prepare a production budget? So that is also required detail. So all these three, A, B, and D, are required for preparing production budget, whereas research and development budget is not required for preparing production budget. That is question number 6. Next, question number 7. The break-even point is the point at which there is no profit, no loss. So break-even point, you know already. You would have already studied this under marginal costing. Break-even point is nothing but where your fixed cost will be equal to your contribution. The total contribution received from the break-even point sales will be exactly equal to fixed cost. So when contribution minus fixed cost, you will get 0. That is no profit, no loss. So for question number 7, option A is the right answer. That is break-even point is a point at which there is no profit, no loss. Next, question number 8. The PV ratio of a product is 0.4. So this is a problematic question. Just see. PV ratio of a product is 0.4, which is nothing but 40%. They have given contribution ratio. PV ratio is 40% and selling price is 40 per unit. So with this data, they are asking us to find the marginal cost of the product would be. What is mean by marginal cost? Marginal cost is nothing but variable cost. So your selling price is of 2 elements. One is contribution, the other one is variable cost. So you know what is the contribution ratio. So 1 minus contribution ratio is nothing but variable cost ratio. So if you multiply that variable cost ratio with your selling price per unit, you are going to get what is your marginal cost per unit, which is also called as variable cost per unit. So for this particular problem number 8, just look into this Excel sheet. For question number 8, variable cost ratio is equal to 1 minus PV ratio. That is the formula for variable cost ratio. So they are asking us to find marginal cost. So which is nothing but variable cost they are asking us to find. So variable cost ratio is equal to 1 minus PV ratio, which is equal to 1 minus 0.4. Here they have given in the question PV ratio is 0.4. So 1 minus 0.4, you are going to get 0.6. That is nothing but variable cost ratio. If you multiply that 0.6 with the selling price per unit, you will get what is your marginal cost. So marginal cost is equal to what is selling price per unit? They have given 40. So 40 into 0.6. How much you are going to get? 24. So marginal cost is equal to 24. So that is the right option. So option number B is the right answer. For a problem number 8, question number 8, PV ratio of the product they have given 40%. Selling price 40 rupees. So 40% into 40 rupees, how much you are getting? 16 rupees. So if contribution is per unit is 16 rupees, what is variable cost per unit? Selling price minus contribution per unit. So 40 minus 16, how much you are getting? 24. So on the other hand, you can calculate 24 by that way also. That is selling price minus contribution. Or you can multiply, you can find the variable cost ratio by finding 1 minus PV ratio and multiply it with the selling price per unit. You will get what is your marginal cost. That is rupees 24. With that, we have completed question number 8. Moving on to the question number 9. If standard hours are 400 at 1 rupee per hour and actual hours are 380 and at 1.25 rupees per hour, the labor rate variance. So simple. You would have already studied variance analysis. Labor rate variance can be calculated by multiplying and deducting the actual hours into standard rate minus actual rate. So you should find what is your difference between standard rate and your actual rate and multiply it with the actual hours. You will get your labor rate variance. So here standard hours is 400. Standard rate is 1 rupee per hour and actual hours is 380 and actual rate is 1.25. So actual standard hours minus actual hours, how much you are getting? 1 minus 1.25 is 0.25. If you multiply that with 380, you are going to get what is your labor rate variance. See here. For question number 9, labor rate variance is equal to, if you have a pen and if you have that printed copy, just record it next to that MCQ itself. Labor rate variance is equal to actual hours into standard rate minus actual rate. Here actual hours is 380 hours, which they have given in the question. So 380 into within bracket, what is the standard rate? 1 rupee. Whereas what is the actual rate? 1.25. So 1 minus 1.25 is minus 2.5. Sorry, minus 0.25. If you multiply that with 380, you are going to get 95 negative, which is nothing but 95 adverse. So labor rate variance is 95 adverse. Just multiply what is your standard rate minus actual rate with the actual loss. You will get your labor rate variance, 95 adverse. So for question number 9, answer is option D, that is 95 adverse. Actual loss is 380 and difference between standard loss and actual loss is minus 0.25. So for minus 0.25 into 380, you are going to get 95 adverse. That is point number 9. Question number 9. Next, question number 10. The time taken for initial unit of 100 hours at 80% learning rate. What is the total time for 4 units? See, learning curve is simple, man. Learning curve is nothing but if suppose a labor is being utilized again and again for producing the same product, he is going to improve the learning curve. That is, at first, for producing 1 unit, his learning curve will be slightly higher than producing at second unit. That is, if number of hours taken for producing first unit is 100, then second unit he can produce it at below that 100 hours itself. If suppose he is only to the condition if he is improving his learning rate. So here the question given is the time taken for initial unit of product is 100 hours. That is for producing the first unit, the particular labor is taking 100 hours and he is learning at 80% learning rate. What is the total time for 4 units? Simple. They are asking what is the total time to be taken for producing 4 units if he is learning at 80% learning rate. See, this learning rate should be multiplied at the exact number of squares. That is, if suppose for first unit it is 100 hours and learning rate is 80% learning rate. Then for producing second unit, total hours taken average on a producing 1 unit, if you are producing 2 units is 100 into 80%. So if suppose you are producing 2 units, then you are going to produce each unit at 80 hours. And if you are producing 2 units, it is 80 hours per unit. And again, if you are producing 4 units, you can go with same multiplication, that is 2 into 2, then 4 into 4. Same way, if you are producing 4 units, that is 2 into 2, then again you have to multiply with 80%. 100 into 80% into 80%. So you are going to get 64. 64 hours is nothing but for producing 1 unit. If you are producing 4 units, 64 hours is going to be taken. So just see the Excel sheet. Just copy it. Question number 10, learning curve. For 4 units, average hours per unit is equal to, for producing 4 units, average hours per unit is equal to, see, for first unit 100, and for producing 2 units, that is 1 plus 1 is 2. So for producing 2 units, 100 into 80%. And again, 2 plus 2 is 4. For producing 4 units, again you have to multiply with 80%. That is the square of 2. So for producing 4 units, 100 into 80% into 80%, that is equal to, you are going to take 64 hours per unit. So for producing 1 unit, 64 hours. They have asked what is the total time taken for 4 hours. So 64 into 4, that is 256 hours. So the right answer is option number D, that is 256 hours. Suppose they are asking us to find what is your rate, that is 4. For 4 units, it is 64 per hour. Then 4 plus 4 is 8. So for producing 8 units, again you have to multiply with 80%. Again 8 plus 8, 16. 16 plus 16, 4, 32. The same way it will keep repeating. That is, your learning rate will be increasing at 80%. So that is question number 10. So moving on to the next question. That is question number 11. See, they have given the marginal costing problem. That is, sales is rupees 4 lakhs, variable cost is rupees 3 lakhs, fixed cost is 75,000. And what is their investment rupees is 1,50,000 and desired rate on investment is 20%. So this 1,50,000 is into 20% is nothing but desired rate of return. So that is 1,50,000 into 20%, how much you are getting? 30,000. So 30,000 is the desired return on investment. And what is your residual income? They are asking. Residual income is nothing but profit minus desired return. You will get your residual income. Residual income is anything in excess of your expected income. That is, anything in excess of your desired income. Desired return is called residual income. So residual income formula simple. You should find your profit using your variable cost, that is marginal cost model. Then you have to find what is your desired return. If you deduct both, you will get your residual income. So here, first we will find what is your profit. Sales is 4 lakhs, variable cost is 3 lakhs, fixed cost is 75,000. So for question number 11, net profit is equal to sales minus variable cost. You will get your contribution. From that, if you take off fixed cost, you are going to get your net profit. So 4 minus 3 lakhs is nothing but sales is 4 lakhs, 3 lakhs is your variable cost. You are going to get 1 lakh of contribution. And from that 1 lakh, if you take off your 75,000, you are going to get 25,000. So your net profit is 25,000. And what is your desired return? Your investment into percentage of return. So investment is 1,50,000 and your percentage of expectation is 20%. So 1,50,000 into 20% is nothing but 30,000. So your net profit is only 25,000, but your desired return is expectation is 30,000. So residual income is equal to net profit minus desired investment return. So what is your net profit? From that you take off desired return, you're going to get your residual income. Here 25,000 minus 3,000 is equal to 5,000 negative. So that is the residual income. So for question number 11, answer is option D, 5,000 negative. So sales is 4 lakh. From that you take off variable cost. You will get your contribution. 4 lakh minus 3 lakh, you're going to get 1 lakh. From that 1 lakh, take off your fixed cost of 75,000. You're going to get 25,000. So from the 25,000, you have to deduct your desired in return so that you will get your residual income. 25,000 minus 30,000, that is 5,000 negative. With that, we have completed question number 11. Next, question number 12. Sales in January month is 3 lakhs. Credit sales are 80% and credit period is 2 months. Amount collected in the month of March is, see, your sales in January month is 3 lakhs and credit sales out of the total sales is 80% and your credit period is 2 months. See, if suppose 3 lakhs is your total sales in January, if you multiply that total sales with your credit sales, you are going to get what is your credit sales in total. So 3 lakh into 80% is nothing but 2,40,000. So 2,40,000 is your total credit sales and your credit period is 2 months. So whatever credit sales you are doing in January, you are going to receive the payment in March because the credit period given for the credit sales is 2 months. So January month sales, you are going to get the cash in March. So what they have asked, amount collected in the month of March is simple. Your total sales of January into credit sales is the amount which you are going to get in March. So 3 lakh into 80% is 2,40,000. So option number B, that is 2,40,000 is your option number B. That is the answer for question number 12. So moving on to the next question, question number 13. Planning and control are done by, see, simple. Planning and control, who will plan and who will control? Usually planning will be done by the top management of the concern, and control, the middle level and the lower level will be in the control of the top management. So planning and control are done by top management. So question number 13 answer is option A, that is top management. Next, question number 14. The use of management accounting is, what is management accounting? Management accounting is nothing but decision making accounting. That is, management accounting is basically used in order to make decisions. So it will evaluate both financial and non-financial information and make decisions based on the given data. So management accounting is always optional. There is no mandatory thing. So if you want to improve your decision making skills, or if decision making should be effective in your particular organization, management accounting will be helpful. So it is always optional. So option B, question number 14 is option B. Management accounting is optional. For cost accounting, there are some limits that has been mentioned in the cost and audit record. That is cost and audit record rules 2014. Now it is amended to 2018. Using in that particular thing, they have given the criteria for maintaining cost accounting, whereas management accounting is entirely optional. Next, question number 15. The budget are classified on the basis of, see, what is budget? Budget is nothing but a pre-planned statement which is used for running the business. That is, if you budget for particular period, it is called time-based budgeting. And if you budget for particular activity, that is functions like production function, sales budget, then raw material budget, purchase budget, all these different budgets will fall under functional budget. That is, these are different functions. So budget are classified into time and function and also flexibility. Flexibility is nothing but, see, suppose your installed capacity out of 100%, you are operating at 60% capacity or 70% capacity or 80% capacity. That is called flexibility budget. So based on all three are classified as budget. So these are the three bases for budget: time, function, and flexibility. So answer is all the above. That is option B, all the above. Next, moving on to next question. That is question number 16. Which of the following departments is most likely responsible for price variance of direct material? See, what is the price of direct material? How it is determined? See, price of direct material is majorly concerned with receiving department, the purchasing department, whoever is purchasing. Suppose I am in the purchasing department of the raw material team. That is, raw material will have a team. In that itself, they will separate from raw material itself. Some people will be allocated for maintaining the raw material, and some people will be allocated for distributing the raw material to the production, whereas some people will be allocated for purchasing that raw material. So whoever is going and purchasing that raw material from the outside market, they are going to buy that particular product. So when they are buying that particular product, they are going to set a price, actual price for purchasing that product. If that actual price is more or less than the standard price, it is going to have a price variance. So price variance, the most likely responsible person for price variance is purchasing department. So question number 16 answer is option C, purchasing department. Next, question number 17. Ideal time variance is always adverse. See, what is this ideal time variance? There is some variance in the particular cost. That is, either it is raw material or labor, or maximum the labor. So in labor, if there is any idle time, and because of that idle time, what is going to happen? They are going to lose their number of units that is to be produced in that particular time. Because of this, your number of quantity is going to get affected. So basically, this idle time is going to give adverse impact on the production. So idle time variance is always adverse. Next, question number 18. In marginal costing, stock is valued at. See, what is meant by marginal costing? Marginal costing, other name is variable costing. So in marginal costing, any particular product is valued at variable cost. So it is nothing but variable cost. Marginal costing, you should always remember, marginal costing is nothing but variable costing. So option B. For question number 18, answer is option B, variable cost. Next, question number 19. In 2 consecutive periods, sales and profit were 1,60,000 and 8,000 respectively in the first period, and 1,80,000 and 14,000 respectively in the second period. So they are given the 2 years data, that is sales and profit of first year and also second year. For first year, it is sales is 1,60,000, profit is 8,000. For second year, sales is 1,80,000 and profit is 14,000. So with this data, if there is no change in fixed cost between 2 periods, the PV ratio must be, see, there is a formula for PV ratio. If you have already studied this marginal costing, you know the formula for PV ratio is change in profit divided by change in sales into 100. That is change in profit in between 2 years divided by change in profit between change in sales between 2 years. Change in profit between 2 years divided by change in sales between 2 years into 100 is PV ratio. Here they have given both the items, profit and sales for 2 years. So what is the change in profit for 2 years? 14,000 minus 8,000, that is 6,000. And what is change in sales? 1,60,000, 1,80,000 minus 1,60,000, 20,000. So 6,000 divided by 20,000 into 100 is nothing but 30%. So your PV ratio is going to be 30%. You just check the MS Excel the document. So you just check it. For number 19, PV ratio is equal to, question number 19, PV ratio is equal to change in profit divided by change in sales into 100. So what is your change in profit? 14,000 minus 8,000, which is nothing but 6,000. And change in sales is 1,80,000 minus 1,60,000, that is 20,000. So 6,000 divided by 20,000 into 100. So your answer is 30%. So 30% is your PV ratio. So next is question number 20. So question number 19 answer is option C, that is 30%. And question number 20, budgeted sales for next year is 5 lakh units. Okay, the budgeted sales is 5 lakh units and desired ending finished goods inventory is 1,50,000 units. And equivalent units in ending work in progress inventory is 60,000 units. So your total closing stock, that is desired ending finished goods inventory, that is your total closing stock is going to be finished goods of 1,50,000 units and work in progress equivalent units of 60,000. So both put together is your total closing inventory. 1,50,000 plus 60,000, that is 2,10,000 is your total closing inventory. And opening finished goods inventory for the next year is 80,000 units and 50,000 units, equivalent units in the beginning work in progress inventory. So the opening finished goods is going to be 80 and 50. Put together is 1,30,000 and closing is 1,50,000 plus 60, 2,10,000. So sales plus closing minus opening is nothing but equivalent units to be produced. So see, simple. What is the production of goods formula? The number of units to be produced is equal to sales plus closing stock minus opening stock. So here sales is 5 lakh. The closing stock is 2,10,000. That is 1,50,000 plus 60,000 put together 2,10,000. So 5 lakh plus 2,10,000 minus 1 lakh. What is the closing stock? 80,000. Opening stock 80,000 plus 50,000. That is 1,30,000. So 1,30,000. You are getting 5,80,000. So your option A is the right answer. Simple. Equivalent units. Equivalent units is nothing but work in progress units will be converted into your total closing inventory units. That is, if suppose your work in progress is analyzed based on the completion of that particular production. So if suppose this work in progress is converted into completed production, then 60,000 is the number of units. So closing inventory is 1,50,000 and closing work in progress equivalent units is 60,000. Put together is your total closing inventory. The formula for this particular question is for production, number of products to be produced is equal to sales plus closing stock minus opening stock. Check here. Equivalent units for production is equal to sales plus closing stock of equivalent units plus opening stock of equivalent units. So total sales is 5 lakh. Closing stock of equivalent units is 2,10,000 minus opening stock of equivalent units is 1,30,000. So ultimate answer is 5,80,000. So option A is the right answer, 5,80,000. So moving on to the next question. Question number 21. Akash Limited is preparing its cash budget for the period. Sales are expected to be 1 lakh in April 2016 and 2 lakhs in May 2016 and 3 lakhs in June 2016 and rupees 1 lakh in July 2016. So sales they have given from April to July, 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 3 lakh, and 1 lakh from April to July consecutively. That is, half of all the sales are cash sales and the other half are credit. So 50% is going to be cash sales and 50% is going to be credit sales. So whatever the sales amount you are getting in the appropriate month, 50% is going to be received in the first month itself. That is in the same month. Suppose April 1 lakh in April 2016. Out of that, 50% is going to be received in the April itself. And experience indicates that 70% of credit sales will be collected in the month of the following sales. So suppose April month total sales is 1 lakh and cash sales is 50,000 and credit sales is 50,000 because 50% is your cash sales. Out of that credit sale 50,000, 70% will be collected in the May month itself. That is within 1 month. So 50,000 into 70% is nothing but 35,000 they will collect in the May month itself. And 20% month after that, that is April month sales, you will collect 70% of credit sales in May and 20% of credit sales in June and remaining 10% of credit sales in July. That is, they have clearly given cash sales is for 50% and credit sales, out of the credit sales, 70% will be collected in the next month and 20% will be collected in the month after that and 10% in the third month after the sale. So this is the collection data. So with that, they are asking us the budgeted collection for the month of July 2016 is. So for July 2016, what is your total collection? So whatever your sales is in July, on that 50% is going to be cash sales. So your July sales is 1 lakh, on that 50% is going to be cash sales. And whatever is your June month sales, on that credit sales, you are going to receive 70% of credit sales of June. And May month credit sales, you are going to receive 20% of May month sales. And April month sales, you are going to receive 10% of the credit sales. So this is the total collection that is going to happen in July 2016. So we'll just summarize it. Moving on to the answer. See the answer. Question number 21. Total collection for July. For July, they are asking us the total collection. So July cash sales we can add no. So 1 lakh is the total sales in July. On the 50% is your cash sales. So cash sales is equal to total sales into 50%. So 1 lakh into 50%, 50,000 is your collection from July month itself. Then June month sales which you are receiving in July. So June sales receivable in July is equal to, what is your total sales? 3 lakh for June. So into 50% is your 1,50,000. So credit sales is 1,50,000 for June. On that 70% is going to be received in the July because June month sales, credit sales 70% will be received in the July. So 1,50,000 into 70%, you are getting 1,05,000. Next, May sales received in July. So what is your total May sales? 2 lakhs. Out of that 50% is your credit sales. So 1 lakh into May month sale, how much you are going to receive in July? First in June, 70% you will receive. July, you are going to receive 20% of the May month credit sales. So 1 lakh into 20%, that is 20,000. And April sales receivable in July. See, April sales, 70% of credit sales will be received in May, 20% of credit sales will be received in June, and remaining 10% of credit sales will be received in July. So what is your April total sales? 1 lakh. 1 lakh into 50% is your credit sales. So 50,000 into 10% is your amount which you are going to receive. So 10% you will get 5,000. So total of it, 50,000 plus 1,05,000 plus 20,000 plus 5,000. You are getting, how much you are getting? Just totally. You are getting 1,80,000. So 1,80,000 is the total collection for July. Simple. So option D is the right answer. 1,80,000. So July month sales you are going to receive in July itself. June month sales 70% of credit sales you are going to receive. May month sales 20% of the credit sales you are going to receive in July. And April month sales 10% of credit sales you are going to receive in July. So next, question number 22. So we have finished question number 21, that is 1,80,000. 1,80,000 is the total budgeted collection for the month. So if you have already studied this cash budget problem in the budgeting, you can solve this question number 21 easily. So this is how they are going to ask you in the online based examination. So 1 point from a particular problem will be asked as an MCQ. So if suppose cash budget problem is given in examination for paper number 10, then they will ask for minimum of 8 marks. Instead of asking for 8 marks, they are just asking the budgeted collection alone. So budgeted collection is a part of 8-mark question. So they are going to allocate minimum of 2 marks for this and they will ask in MCQ. So you have to be thorough with the concepts, then only you can answer this MCQ. Just solving the MCQs alone, you can't get the marks. You should be thorough with all the practical concepts so that you can solve all the MCQs very easily. So moving on to the next question, that is question number 22. During the month of March, 560 kg of materials was purchased at a total cost of 15,904. So how much is the purchase quantity? 560 kg, and what is the total cost incurred? 15,904. And the stock of material increased by 15 kg. So comparing to the standard, the stock of material is increased by 15 kg. So suppose your actual is 560 kg of material purchase. So 560 minus 15 is your budgeted material, that is standard material, standard quantity for actual output. So standard quantity is 545, actual quantity is 560, and 15,904 is your total actual cost. So 15,904 divided by 560, you will get what is your actual price. Actual price is 28.4. That is 15,904 divided by 560, you will get 28.4. So that 28.4 is your actual price, and your actual quantity is 560. And it is company's policy to value the stocks at standard purchase price. And if the material price variance is 224 adverse, standard price per kg of material is. See, using the material price variance formula, you are going to solve. They have given an answer of material price variance, and they are asking us to find what is the standard price per kg of material. So what are the basic requirements for this material price variance? What is your actual quantity? What is your actual price and standard price? Here we have actual quantity and actual price. So actual quantity is 560 kg, and actual price is 28.4 rupees per unit. So we have actual quantity and actual price, and also what is the material price variance. With that, we can easily find what is the standard price per kg of material. Just use that formula and solve the answer. So moving on to the solution, see question number 22. Material price variance is equal to actual quantity into standard price minus actual price. So what is your standard price? That only we need to find. But we know what is our material price variance. So just solution is, what is material price variance? Minus 224. Because 224 adverse, so it is minus 224 is equal to, what is your actual quantity? 560. Standard price, we don't know what is standard price, just put it as SP, minus what is your actual price? 28.4. How did we get that 28.4? Actual quantity is, that is actual price is equal to 15,904 divided by actual quantity, how much? 560. You are getting 28.4 is your actual price. So standard price minus 28.4. So if you bring this 560 to the left hand side, minus 224 divided by 560, you are getting minus 0.4 is equal to standard price minus 28.4. When this minus 28.4 comes to the left hand side, you are going to get standard price per unit is equal to 28.4 minus 0.4. You are getting 28. So 28 is your standard price per kg of raw material. Simple. Using the material price variance formula, you are substituting the available numbers and finding what is your standard price per kg of raw material. So standard price per kg of raw material is 28 rupees. That is option C. Problem number 22 is option C. Next, question number 23. Cost price is not fixed in case of, see, what is your cost price? It is not fixed in case of cost plus contracts. So in case of cost plus contracts, what is your cost price? You cannot make it as a fixed price. So in your cost plus contract, cost price varies according to the change in number of units. So if suppose your cost plus, if you are following cost plus contract, then your cost price cannot be fixed, because your fixed cost is going to vary in percent, like in per unit fixed cost is going to vary based on the number of units. So your total cost price is not fixed in case of cost plus contract. So that is question number 23. Next is question number 24. 24, important question actually. Continuous stock taking is a part of, see, what is meant by continuous stock taking? That every time interval, that is between every 1 week or every 3 days, the stock taking, that is number of stocks left over in the stock godown, that is to be recalculated every week or every period, like at the regular time interval. That is called continuous stock taking, and it is a part of perpetual inventory. So what is mean by perpetual inventory? Basically, when you are following perpetual inventory, this gold jewelry shops, they usually follow this perpetual inventory. What they will do is, they keep updating continuously based on stock availability. That is, they keep rechecking their stock based on the stock availability. So that is called perpetual inventory. Perpetual inventory is nothing but continuous stock taking. So continuous stock taking is part of perpetual inventory. Next, question number 25. In reconciliation statement, expenses shown only in financial statements are, see what is meant by reconciliation statement? From financial profits, you are going to find the costing profit. So whatever is your item which has been shown as expenses in the financial account and not to be shown in the cost account, it should be added back to the financial profit. Simple. In reconciliation statement, expenses shown only in financial accounts are, in the top you will have financial account profit. So in that profit, the expenses has been already debited. That is, your expenses which has been debited to the financial account will reduce your profit. So in your cost accounting, you are not going to show that expenses. So what you should do, to that financial profit, you should add it. So whatever your expenses which is shown only in the financial account should be added to your financial profit. Option A is the answer. Your expenses which is being shown only in the financial account should be added to your financial profit so that you can arrive at your cost profit. Next, question number 26. Operating costing is applicable to, see, operating costing means costing which is to be followed when running a business. So if you are running a business, then operating costing is applicable. So operating is nothing but running a business, that is operating a business. So operating costing can be used for any business which is operating in operating right now. So hospitals, it can operating costing can be used. Cinemas also operating costing is applicable. Transport undertaking also operating costing. Whatever business which is running, that is whatever business which is in the operations, that is which is continuing its operations, this operating costing is applicable. So answer for this question number 26 is all the above. So operating costing basically is applicable to all the businesses which are operating. Next, question number 27. Flexible budget requires a careful study of. See, what is meant by flexible budget? Flexible budget is nothing but between the capacity differentiation. That is, suppose your installed capacity is 100% and your operating capacity is only 60%. That is your used capacity 60%. Then next year, if you are planning to increase it to 70%, the budget which you should prepare is called flexible budget. So based on your capacity utilization, the budget which is prepared is called flexible budget. Point number 1 is clear. Flexible budget means budget which is prepared using your capacity utilization. And what are all the different items which is required for preparing this flexible budget? All your fixed expenses, semi-fixed, and also variable expenses. All these expenses are required in order to prepare your flexible budget. So option A is the right answer. For preparing flexible budget, all three fixed. You would have solved this flexible budget sum in the budgeting. When you are solving a budgeting flexible budget sum problem, that is 60%, 70%, 80% problem. There, this particular fixed expenses, semi-fixed expenses, that is fixed expenses, semi-variable expenses, and variable expenses. You would have dealt with all three expenses in the flexible budget. So all three are required to careful study. So fixed, semi-fixed, and variable expenses. So that is option A. For question number 27, option A is the right answer. Next, question number 28. Which of the following items is not excluded while preparing cost sheet? See, they are asking which are the items not excluded. Here they are given all the items which are excluded, but one item is not excluded. That is includable in the cost sheet. So point number A, that is option A, is goodwill written off. You will never take into consideration goodwill in the cost sheet. So goodwill written off will not be included in the cost sheet. So that is not the right answer. Next, option B, provision for taxation. Taxation provision will be taken into account only in the financial accounts and also in the taxation purpose statement. Whereas in your cost statement, cost sheet, you are not going to take into consideration your provision for taxation. So that is also not the right answer. And last option, that is interest paid. Interest paid is a pure financial. It is a pure financial item. So it is not includable in the cost sheet. So option number C is the right answer. That is property tax on factory building. So the property tax which is paid on factory building is nothing but it should be included to the fixed expenses. So property tax on factory building is includable in the cost sheet. You can include it in the factory is part of factory overhead. So you can include this property tax on factory building in the factory overhead. So that is question number 28. Next, moving on to question number 29. The most important element of cost is, see, when you go through this cost accounting standard, you will find that the most important element of cost is material. So material plays very important role in the cost. So material cost is the most important element. That is question number 29. Next, question number 30. Depreciation is an example of, see, depreciation, where you will take into consideration depreciation. Depreciation is nothing but fixed cost. You cannot relate a particular depreciation to a particular product. So depreciation is in total, that is fixed cost. So depreciation is an example of fixed cost. That is option A. For question number 30, depreciation is an example of fixed cost. Then question number 31, joint cost is suitable for, see, joint cost and joint and byproduct. That particular chapter you would have already finished, joint cost, joint and byproduct, which is nothing but if you are producing one product, you are going to get other products as a byproduct. That is, suppose you are producing petroleum, you are going to get diesel, motor oil, nail polish, all these as byproducts. So basically, joint cost is suitable for oil industry. So while you are producing petrol, you are going to get other byproducts like diesel, motor oil, nail polish. You also get tires. That is the tire which when your vehicle tires also is prepared from oil byproducts. So basically, oil industry is best example for joint cost. Next, question number 32. Which statement best describes the role of management accountant? See, what is the main role of management accountant? As we discussed in the question number 1 itself, decision making. Okay, in this particular, all 4 options where decision making is given, that is the right option. So which of the statements best describes the role of management accountant? Option A, management accountant prepares financial statement for an organization. Wrong. It is not going to prepare any financial statement for organization. Next, option B, management accountant facilitates the decision making process within an organization. So that is the correct role of management accountant. So management accountant facilitates the decision making process within an organization. So that is the right answer. Question number 32 is option B. Then moving on to question number 33. In a factory, when production is increased within the relevant range, then see, if suppose we are running a factory, we both are running a factory and we are increasing number of units produced from 90,000 to 1 lakh. And this 1 lakh is the maximum capacity of the machine which has been installed. So in the 1 lakh installed capacity, these many days we are preparing 90,000 units, and now we have planned to prepare 1 lakh units. So this is within the relevant range. So you are not going to purchase a new machine, or you are not going to lease a machine in order to produce this extra 10,000 units. So if it is within the relevant range, then what is the different options they have given? You should evaluate it. If suppose it is within the given relevant range, then variable cost will vary on per unit basis. No, wrong. Then variable cost will vary in total. See, if suppose you are running production business, you are producing 90,000 units, and if suddenly if you are planning to produce 1 lakh units, what is going to change? Your fixed cost is going to fix it in total. Suppose you are incurring 1 lakh rupees of fixed cost, even if you produce 90,000 units or 1 lakh units, your fixed cost in total is going to remain the same. Whereas your variable cost will vary in total. For suppose per unit cost of producing variable cost is 10 rupees. Then your 10 rupees per unit variable cost is going to be fixed. It is not going to change, even though if you increase or decrease the unit. So that 10 rupee per unit is going to be fixed. So if you produce 90,000 units, it is going to be 9 lakh. If you produce 1 lakh units, it is going to be 10 lakh. So your variable cost is going to vary in total. That is, if suppose when production is increased within the relevant range, suppose from 90,000 to 1 lakh units I am increasing, my total variable cost will vary in total. That is 33, question number 33. Next, moving on to next question, that is question number 34. The main objective of budgetary control is, so what is budgetary control? Budgetary control is preparation of the budget for the future. So option A, what they have given, to define the goal of the firm. So by preparing a budgetary control, you will define a goal. That is, you can define a profit goal or sales goal, whatever your goal is, you can define a goal. And option B, to coordinate different departments. That is, using purchase department budget, you can relate it with the marketing department, so that marketing department will make a marketing for selling that particular number of products. And using sales budget, you can relate it with the production department, so that production department will produce accordingly relatable to sales budget. So to coordinate with different departments, that is also a right answer. Then to plan to achieve its goals. So budget is basically prepared to achieve its goals. So option is option D, all the above. All the above. Next, question number 35. Method of pricing. When two separate pricing methods are used to price transfer of products from one subunit to another, it's called dual pricing. That is, take an example. Suppose we are running a dairy product company. Then you are producing milk and selling it in the market. Like you are taking milk from the cows and you are selling it in the market. By selling it in the market, you are going to get 40 rupees. Suppose, for example, per liter 40 rupees. And by running dairy company, you are also producing other products. That is, you are producing curd, you are producing ghee, you are producing other products also. So the price of milk which has been given in the market to the customers will be different from the price at which the milk has been given to other departments for producing other products. So that is called dual pricing. So method of pricing, when two separate pricing methods, that is for market, that is customers, there is one price, and for the internal transfer, that is another price. That is called dual pricing. So two separate pricing methods are used to price transfer of products from one subunit to another. Is called dual pricing. Simple. When you are using two prices for market and your internal department separately, then that is called dual pricing. Then question number 36. When overhead variances recorded in standard costing, that is, when are overhead variances recorded in standard costing? When factory overhead is applied to work in progress. Simple. See, whenever you are using your overhead and you are expending some amount in the overhead, then you are ultimately using your standard costing system. When you are using standard costing system, you are going to evaluate whether there is adverse or favorable situation in that overhead. So option number B is right answer. That is, when factory overhead is applied for work in progress, then overhead variances is recorded in the standard costing system. That is factory overhead variances. Next, question number 37. Management accounting is integral part of management concerned with the identifying, presenting, and interpreting information. So what does management accounting do? They will identify the different information. That is, identifying is nothing but identifying financial and non-financial information. Presenting is nothing but presenting the different information in the management accounting data. And interpreting is how they are interpreting their standard costing, and finding what are all the different data, different ideas, different points which can be analyzed from that particular presentation. So that is called identifying, presenting, and interpreting. So management accounting is an integral part of management concerned with the identifying, presenting, and interpreting information. So that is question number 37. Option A is the right answer. Next, question number 38. Second. Question number 38. Management accounting is related with formulating strategy. Yeah, management accounting formulates strategy. Then planning and controlling activities. So basically, this management accounting plans and manages the activities. And also it optimizes the use of resources. That is, whatever the resources available with the company, use of it for the maximum utilization. That is, maximum utilization of that resources is prerequisite for management accounting. So all the above. So for question number 38, option is B, all the above. Next, question number 39. Despite the development of management accounting as an effective discipline to improve the management performance, it has some limitations. Which of the following is the limitation of management accounting? See, even though you have management accounting and you are using management accounting in your business effectively, then also there are some limitations. What is that limitation? It is nothing but psychological resistance. See, what does management accounting do? It gives what should be done by the particular individual or particular department or particular organization. Management accounting will decide that. Using management accounting, the team will decide what should be done in order to achieve the goal. So the individuals who are working in the organization will have a resistance to that change. That is, previously they would have been working in different missions. And again, due to achievement, like due to effectiveness, and also in order to reduce the cost, they would have purchased another machine because of this management accounting decision. So what it will happen to the workers, that is individuals, is they will have the psychological resistance to change. That is, they won't adopt to that change immediately. So that is the major limitation. That is the important limitation for this management accounting. So question number 39, answer is option A, psychological resistance. Option A, psychological resistance. Next is question number 40. The primary objective of management accounting is, see, what is the for company itself, what is the objective? To increase the profit and reduce the loss. And also for management accounting, is their primary objective is going to change? No, it is also maximizing the profits and minimizing the losses. So D, all the above. All the above. You cannot see, remember, you cannot select the option C because option C, they have given maximum profit or minimizing loss. So this, if it is and, then fine. Don't confuse it. Maximize profits and minimize losses. If they have given that, then you can choose option C. Whereas they have given maximize profits or minimize losses. So it is going to be all the above. That is maximize profits, minimize losses. So that is the primary objective of management accounting. See, when you are choosing particular answer in the examination, check at least 2 to 3 times before clicking on that particular answer. Even though you know that answer on the face of it, like seeing the question itself, you know the answer also. Just before clicking that answer, just check it for 2 to 3 times, because you can't, like, we don't know how it is going to be online based mode exam, that you might not have time in the end to evaluate all the MCQs, because you don't have only 5 questions like how we write descriptive exams. Here the question number is going to be around 80 to 70 to 80 number of questions. So you cannot check everything again after completing it. So before entering or before clicking on an option, please check it and please evaluate it, then click on the option and just go to the next question. And I think so there is one more option called, before completing the one question, you can't move on to the next question. So if you have to complete one question, then only you can move on to the next question itself, it seems. I don't know if it is right or wrong. We have to check the model question papers, then only we can find whether it is true or not. But if that is the case, then finish off the question as and when. Don't skip the question, because if you skip the question, you won't remember in the end. You might not select the question itself. That is, you might not select the option itself. You will leave the question itself in the end. So finish off all the questions and move on. Don't leave any questions before. Then, like how we do in descriptive, don't do that. That is one tip. Then next is question number 41. Management accounting is concerned with the data collection from both internal and also external resources, because see, management accounting deals with all the information, that is whether it is internal information or external information or market related information. So management accounting deals with all the data. So option C is the right answer, internal and external sources. So moving on to the next question. Question number 42. Management accounting is concerned with accounting information which is useful to the management. This is defined by, see, this definition is given by Robert M. So this guy has given this particular definition, that is, management accounting is concerned with accounting information which is useful for the management. So why they have named it as management accounting. So whatever the information that has been given in the management accounting, it is basically useful for management. That is defined by Robert N. Anthony. Then question number 43. Marginal cost is taken as equal to, what is meant by marginal cost? First of all, marginal cost is variable cost. So you evaluate the options based on that. What is variable cost here? Question number, option A, prime cost plus all variable overhead. That is the variable cost. What is your prime cost? Prime cost is nothing but variable cost plus what is your all variable overhead put together is your marginal cost. So option A is the right answer. Option B, what they have given, prime cost minus all variable overhead. So that is not right answer. Next, variable overhead. Not only variable overhead, prime cost is also an variable cost. So option A is the right answer. Prime cost plus all variable overhead put together is the marginal cost. Marginal cost is nothing but variable cost, man. What and all will fall under variable cost? Cost which will not vary in per unit, but which will vary in total. That is called variable cost. That is, for producing one additional unit of output, what is your cost you are incurring? That is called variable cost. It is also called as marginal cost. Next, marginal costing is also known as variable costing and direct costing, both. So option C is the right answer. Direct costing is nothing but whatever the cost you are going to incur for producing one additional unit of output. That is called marginal costing and direct costing. So marginal costing is also called as variable costing. So answer is option C, both A and B put together. So next is question number 45. Which of the following costs is relevant in decision making? See, committed cost is always relevant in the decision making of a management. So whatever is your committed cost, that is whatever is your cost which is fixed, that is the relevant for decision making. So moving on to the next question, that is question number 46. An opportunity cost is cost of, see, what is your opportunity cost? Opportunity cost is nothing but instead of using the resources for particular thing, if you are used for another business, you would have got some other business. That is called lost business. So opportunity cost is simple, man. Understand it clearly. Suppose I'm producing 10 units of, if I'm producing 10 units of pen, instead of producing 10 units of pen, using the same resources, I could have produced 15 units of pencil. So for producing 10 units of pen, 15 units of pencil is the opportunity cost. That is lost business. I have lost a business of say 15 pencils. That is the opportunity cost. So for question number 46, option A is the right answer. That is lost business. Next, question number 47. In a product mix decision, which is the most important factor to consider in order to try maximize profit? See, when you have to maximize your profit, your product mix decision should be based on your limiting factor. What is meant by limiting factor? That is key factor, also known as scarce resource. Suppose if I am running a company in an area where labor is at scarce, then direct labor is going to be my scarce resource, which is also known as key factor. So my contribution per unit of labor, that is the criteria which I should use in order to calculate my product mix decision. Simple. If suppose my labor is available in scarce, that is I don't have maximum number of labor, my labor is limited, my availability of labor is limited, then labor is my scarce resource. Then my contribution, total contribution per unit, based on total contribution per unit of labor, based on that I should prepare a product mix so that I can maximize the profit. So option number A is the right answer. So if you have already completed this marginal costing, you will have solved many number of sums using this scarce resources. That is bottleneck factor or key factor. The key factor is nothing but factor which is availability in scarce. So using that only, you should calculate your contribution per unit of scarce factor so that you should find the product mix in order to try get maximum profit. So next, moving on to question number 48. Which of the following costs incurred by a commercial airline can be classified as variable? See, if suppose I'm running a airline business, that is I'm running commercial airline, and which is my variable cost we are asking? Option A, interest cost on leasing an aircraft, that is not my variable cost, that is my fixed cost. Then pilot salaries, that is also my fixed cost. Then depreciation of aircraft, that is also a fixed cost. Option D, none of these three costs can be classified as variable. So all these three are fixed costs, that is not a variable cost. So option D is the right answer. Next, moving on to question number 49. The basic decision rule on acceptance of special contracts is, see, when you are accepting special contract, I'll just explain you with an example. See, suppose my right now my total capacity of producing units is 1 lakh, and I am producing 90,000 units and selling it in the market, and I am getting an extra order for producing 10,000 units. That is available already. It is available. That capacity is available. That is, I'm getting an export order for producing 10,000 units. So what is the basic rule for accepting this special contract of export order, that is 10,000 units? Simple. My special contract revenue should be additional than their extra cost incurred for that special contract. That is, see, your special contract should produce a positive contribution to fixed cost. That is, there should be a positive contribution to your fixed cost from the special contract. Then you can accept that export order or special contract. Option C is the right answer. That is, accept the special contract if it produces a positive contribution to fixed cost. That is, if suppose because of accepting that particular order, it is giving a positive contribution. That is, it is giving cost, that is your total sales revenue minus total variable cost for the 10,000 units is positive contribution of some positive value, then you can accept the order. If suppose your contribution is negative, then you should not accept the order. So special contract should be accepted only if it produces a positive contribution to fixed cost. So with that, we have completed question number 49. Then moving on to the next question, that is 50th question. If budgets are prepared of business concern for certain period, taking each and every function separately, such budgets are called functional budget. Simple. Suppose you are preparing budget for each and every function, that is production function, then purchase function, sales function, marketing function. For every function, if you are preparing separate budget, then it is called functional budget. So for question number 50, option is option B, functional budget. So moving on to the next question, that is question number 51. For 51, see, what is the question? Which of the following is not an example of functional budget? So I have already explained what is functional budget. Functional budget is nothing but production. Functional budget is nothing but a budget which is being prepared for a separate function. That is, examples of functional budget are production budget, purchase budget, material budget. All those separate budgets which are prepared for separate functions are called as functional budget. Here they have asked what are all the not an example of functional budget. Here they have given different options. Option number A is production budget. It is a functional budget. Cost of production budget. It is also an functional budget. Next, material budget. Material budget is also an functional budget. So the option number D is the right option. That is none of the above. That is all three are functional budget. All three are not an examples of functional budget. So 51 option number D is the right answer. Next, question number 52. Which of the following is an essential of a budget? See, for preparing a budget, which is an essential thing? They have given 4 options. That is, for a budget is being essentially prepared for defined future period. Option A, what they have given is it is prepared for a definite future period. That is, if you are preparing a budget, you can either prepare it for 3 months or 6 months or 9 months or for a year. So budget will always be prepared for a definite future period. Definite means for a fixed future period. Fixed, you can also use this term. That is for a particular future period. For future 1 year or future 5 years, you can prepare a budget. So it is a right one. It is an essential part of budget. Next, option number B is it is a statement prepared prior to defined period of time. Suppose budget is being prepared for 2019-20. Then it will be prepared at the end of the 2018 or end of the March 2018, so that for 2019-20 you can prepare a budget. Or for an example, now we are in October 2020. So budget to be prepared for 2021 will be prepared prior to 2021. That is before the end of the December 2020. We will prepare a budget for next year, that is 2021. So it is a statement prepared prior to defined period of time. That is also correct. It is an essential of budget. Then option C, the budget is a monetary and E or quantitative statement of policy. So budget will always be in the monetary or any other quantitative terms. That is, see, monetary terms means budget will be prepared in the rupees terms. That is how much is going to be incurred in the particular period of time. That is budget in monetary terms. Or quantitative terms means suppose you will prepare a budget for number of units to be produced. Then it will be in the units term. So it will either be in monetary terms or any other quantity terms. So that is also essential of a budget. So all are qualifying the essential of budget. So option number D is the right answer. That is all of the above. So 52 answer is option number D. That is all of the above. Next, moving on to the next question. 53. What is this 53 question they have given? When preparing a production budget, the quantity to be produced equals to, see, simple. The number of quantity to be produced is nothing but sales plus closing stock minus opening stock. Okay. What is your total sales in the particular future period? And what is your closing stock at the end of that future period? And what is your opening stock at the beginning of the future period? All these 3 items are required in order to find what is the quantity to be purchased. Simple. Purchase, that is production, is equal to number of quantities to be produced is equal to closing, that is sales quantity plus closing stock minus opening stock. So here sales quantity minus opening stock plus closing stock. That is option B is the right answer. See, check first option A. Option A, they have given sales plus opening stock. So you should deduct the opening stock from sales. So that is wrong answer. Next, option B, they have given sales quantity minus opening stock plus closing stock. which is the right answer. So option B is the right answer for question number 53. Simple. Do you remember trading account? In trading account, what will happen? On the debit side, you will put opening stock and purchases. On the credit side, you will put closing stock and sales. So on the credit side, both you add it, closing stock plus sales, and deduct the opening stock which is available. Then you will get what is to be purchased. Purchase is nothing but a production, how much is going to be produced, so that you can match your closing stock and sales. So number of units to be produced is equal to sales quantity plus closing stock minus opening stock. So that is 53, question number 53. Next is moving on to question number 54. In comparing a fixed budget with a flexible budget, what is the reason for difference between profit figures in two budgets? See, when you are comparing two budgets, that is fixed budget with a flexible budget. So fixed budget is nothing but it will be fixed for a number of quantity, whereas flexible budget is it depends on the difference in capacity, that is 60% capacity, 70% capacity. Preparing for different capacities is called flexible budget, where you will take into consideration all three, that is fixed cost, variable cost, semi-variable cost. Whereas fixed budget, you will take into consideration whatever is your fixed expenses for the budget. So this fixed budget and flexible budget, the major reason behind the difference between these both profits is difference in level of activity. That is, in fixed budget, it will be fixed at the particular capacity, whereas in flexible budget, it depends on the capacity at which flexible budget is prepared. That is 60, 70, 80, whatever the capacity percentage you are preparing. So the basic criteria, basic reason for the difference in the profit that has been got from fixed budget and the flexible budget is difference in the level of activity. So flexible budget may be created for 50% capacity or 90% capacity, whereas fixed budget will be created only for the appropriate budget, appropriate capacity. You cannot adjust the capacity in the fixed budget, whereas in flexible budget, you can adjust the capacity according to the capacity utilized. So question number 54, right answer is difference in level of capacity, that is level of activity. Suppose your activity, you are operating at 50% capacity, your flexible budget is going to differ from fixed budget. So that is 54. Then moving on to next question, question number 55. When budget allowances are set without the involvement of budget owners, the budgeting process can be described as, see, I am employee in a particular organization, ABC Limited, and I am at the middle level of employment. That is, my position is in the middle level of the management, not in the top level, not in the bottom level. So being in the middle level of the management, if I am preparing budget allowances, that is, I am setting the budget allowances, then that budget allowances which is not being set by the budget owner, then that budgeting process can be described as top-down budgeting. Top-down budgeting. It is a name of the budget where the owner, that is the top level of the management, will not be involved. That is called top-down budgeting. Next, for which of the following would be zero-based budgeting be most suitable? See, first for analyzing this problem number 56, that is zero-based budgeting, you need to know what is zero-based budgeting. Zero-based budgeting is very simple. That is, in zero-based budgeting, basically all the expenses should be justified. That is, suppose government is incurring, getting a revenue of 20,000 crores in a particular month. Then, if they are using this zero-based budgeting, then they have to show what they are doing. That is, what are all the different expenses they are doing using this 20,000 crores, which is the revenue. So zero-based budgeting is nothing but justifying the expenses. So who will justify the expenses? A normal company, down level, that is the bottom level employee might justify the expenses. Whereas in government, that is when government is involved in a particular activity, government department activities, all the expenses should be justified by the employees so that the government's revenue will be justified. So whatever the expenses incurred by government department activities, it should be justified with the expenses. That is, whatever the expenses they are doing, it should be justified. So the zero-based budgeting is suitable more, that is, it is more suitable for the government department. So option number D is the right answer. So just, if you don't know what is zero-based budgeting, first understand what is zero-based budgeting. You can expect a descriptive question from the zero-based budgeting. That too, now, as you know that this online-based exams contains descriptive pattern of questions also. You have to type the answer. So you might you can expect this zero-based budgeting, those definition kind of questions in the descriptive format. That is, in online exam for descriptive questions, you can expect the definition kind of question. What is zero-based budgeting? What is this marginal costing? What is this like material price variance, you can expect the one-liner questions. So you should know what is zero-based budgeting first and what is top-down budgeting. Top-down budgeting is nothing but without involvement of a budget owner. If a budget allowance is set, that is top-down budgeting. And what is zero-based budgeting? Zero-based budgeting is nothing but where all the expenses should be justified. That is zero-based budgeting. Best example of zero-based budgeting is government department activities. This is how you should present your answer. You should type it. So my suggestion will be, like, from now itself, start using your laptop. Like use your laptop often, so that you will get comfortable with typing and also using it faster. So if you are using your laptop so much already, then it's fine. You can use it fastly. But whereas you are not used to this laptop and all, just use it use this 1 month, that is 40 days, so that you become little bit faster with the laptop. So in exams, you don't waste your time by using this laptop slowly. So for answers, you can take your time, because for answers, sometimes you can take 15 minutes to 20 minutes also. But whereas for using this laptop, you should not waste your time. So start using your laptop from now itself. So with that, we have finished 56, question number 56. Then moving on to question number 57. Which among the below is the reason behind the material price variance? See, what is material price variance? Material price variance is nothing but there is a variance in the cost of the material because of the price of that unit. That is, because of price per unit, there is some variance. Then that is called as material price variance. If suppose standard cost per unit is, standard price per unit is 5 rupees and actual price per unit is 10 rupees, then there is material price variance. When there is changes in per unit price, that is, when there is changes in the price of per unit of the particular material, then there will be a variance in that material. That is material price variance. They are asking what are the reasons behind this material price variance. Normal reason is there is fluctuation in the price of the particular product. So if there is change in the price of raw material, then there will be material price variance. But they have given different options. You should select which is the correct reason behind the material price variance. Option A, change in basis purchase of material. That is, change in basis purchase price of material. Suppose purchase price of material as per standard is 10 and as per actual purchase price of material is 15. Then there will be a material price variance. So option A is also a right answer. Then option B, uneconomical size of purchase order. See, what is meant by uneconomical size of purchase order? See, the person who is supplying us the raw materials, he will give us the raw material at a certain price only when we purchase certain amount of goods. So if you are purchasing less raw materials, then you might increase your price. Simple. If you are purchasing in lot, raw materials in lot, suppose you are purchasing 1,000 units of raw material in lot, then your price per unit is 10 rupees. Whereas if you are purchasing only 100 units of raw material, then the price per unit of raw material will be slightly higher. So when you are changing the purchase order, that is number of units of purchase order, then automatically there can be price variance. So the supplier can increase your price if there is reduction in the price variance. Like if there is reduction in the quantity which is being purchased, or else if suppose you are purchasing, last year you have been purchasing only 1,000 units in lot, so he gave it for 10 rupees. Now you are purchasing 5,000 in lot, so he might give it for lesser price. So there can be a material price variance. So option B is also right. And then option C, payment of excess or less freight. See, if you are paying excess freight or less freight, what is meant by freight? Carrying charges. So for freight, for bringing the raw materials to your factory, you are paying freight charges. So if suppose you are paying excess freight charges or less freight charges, then it is going to fluctuate the price per unit. That is, if suppose for bringing the price to your for bringing the raw material to your godown, that is to your factory, the total freight is 10,000 rupees. Whereas due to some economical situation or due to some pandemic situation like corona something, you cannot bring your raw materials to your place. You have to spend extra 10,000 rupees to bring it to your place. Then you are spending 20,000 of freight. So it is going to change the price per unit of the material. So accordingly, there will be a material price variance. So all three are satisfying the material price variance reasons. So the answer is D, that is all the above. All the above. So you just have to understand the question, crack the question, then solve the answer. That is what you require to do in your exam. Then moving on to next question, that is question number 58. In a factory, standard rate per hour is 4. Okay, standard rate is 4 rupees per hour. And standard time per unit of output is 20 hours. So for producing 1 unit of output, standard time required is 20 hours. and total units produced is 500 units. So for producing 500 units, what is the standard rate? Standard hours 20 into 500, that is 10,000 hours is required. But actual hours worked is 12,000 hours. So standard hours required for that 500 units of total output is 10,000 hours, whereas actual hours worked is 12,000 hours. Extra 2,000 hours has been worked. So they are asking us calculate the labor efficiency variance. So what is labor efficiency variance? Labor efficiency variance is nothing but standard cost minus actual cost. Okay, what is standard hours into standard rate minus actual hours into actual rate? Here standard hours is 10,000. Standard rate per hour is 4 rupees. So 40,000 rupees is the standard cost. And actual hours worked is 12,000. And they didn't give actual rate. Here, if they have mentioned actual rate, you could have multiplied it with the actual rate. Whereas they didn't mention any actual rate. So multiply the actual hours worked with the standard rate. So you will get what is your 1 minus 3 standard hours into standard rate minus actual hours into standard rate. So your actual hours is 12,000 and your standard rate per hour is 4 rupees. Simple. So standard rate and actual rate is actually not required in this particular labor efficiency variance. Labor efficiency variance requires three data, that is standard rate per hour, standard hours work, and actual hours work. So first standard hours into standard rate. 10,000 into 4, how much you're getting? 40,000 minus actual hours into standard rate. Actual hours work is 12,000, standard rate is 4. So 12,000 into 4, 48,000. So 40,000 minus 48,000, you are getting 8,000 negative, which is called 8,000 adverse. So answer is point number B, that is 8,000 adverse. 8,000 adverse is the right answer. So how to calculate this is just check the Excel. Material labor efficiency variance is equal to standard hours into standard rate minus actual hours into standard rate. So this is not actual rate, this is standard rate. So standard hours into standard rate minus actual hours into standard rate. You will get 500 into 20 is 10,000 hours. So standard hours is 10,000 hours into standard rate per hour is 4 rupees. So 10,000 into 4, how much you are getting? 40,000 minus 12,000 into 4, that is actual hours into standard rate. So actual hours is 12,000 and standard rate is 4 rupees per hour. So 12,000 into 4, you are getting 48,000. 40,000 minus 48,000, you are getting 8,000 adverse. That is negative of 8,000. Simple. So option number B, 8,000 adverse. That is question number 58. So next, question number 59. MSE manufacturing gives you the following details. Standard price per kg of raw material is 2 rupees. So standard price is 2 rupees. Okay. And actual material used is 2,000. And actual cost is 3,000. So what is actual price? 3,000 divided by 2,000, you will get 1.5. So actual price per kg of raw material is 1.5. Standard price per kg of raw material is 2 rupees. And actual material used is 2,000 kg. And they have given actual output 2,100 kg. Compute the material price variance. What is meant by material price variance? Variance occurring because of change in the price per unit of material, that is price per kg of material. What is the change in price per kg of material? Standard price is 2, actual price is only 1.5. So 2 minus 1.5, you are getting 0.5 positive. So 0.5 into what is the actual material used? 2,000. You are getting 1,000 favorable. So answer is 1,000 favorable. Wait. See, standard price per kg is 2. Actual price per kg is 1.5. How did we find that 1.5? 2,000 kg totally and actual cost is 3,000. So actual cost divided by actual material use, you will get actual price per kg. So that is 1.5. If you multiply that with the actual material use, you will get what is your material price variance. So just check the Excel. Material price variance is equal to actual loss into standard price minus actual price. We know what is standard price. They have given in the question itself 2. And actual price, we found that by actual cost divided by actual number of units. That is, actual cost is 3,000 divided by actual units is 2,000. 3,000 divided by 2,000 is 1.5. So 2 minus 1.5 is 0.5 into what is your actual units? Actual quantity is 2,000. So 2,000 into 0.5, you are getting 1,000 favorable. So question number 59 answer is 1,000 favorable. That is, material price variance is 1,000 favorable. Okay. So this standard costing, how to prepare the standard costing is simple. We used to follow this syntax format. That is, you have to prepare a flow chart for all 5 variances: material cost variance, material price variance, material volume variance, material yield variance, and material mix variance.
all these 5 variances, you can solve these 5 variances and get the answers only by solving 4 syntaxes. So you can solve any variances. That is, if they ask one variance or if they ask all 5 variants also, you can use that flowchart and you can solve it very easily. So if you want to know about that flowchart, if possible, you can ping me using any other mode of social media. Like I'll share you my number, WhatsApp number with the video, so that you can ask me how to solve using this standard costing using this flowchart format. Normally in any classes, they'll teach you, or in institute book itself, if you are doing self-study, you will be solving the formulas. Whereas we can use the flowchart and solve all the variances very easily. The standard costing is easy chapter, whereas if you use formula to solve it, it will take more time, but using flowchart will take less time. So that is standard costing. So you can expect minimum of 4 to 8 marks from this standard costing chapter itself, MCQ. So moving on to the next. Question number 60. Which of the following factors does not affect the learning curve? See, what is meant by learning curve? Learning curve is nothing but how well a particular employee is learning, becoming efficient. So when an employee is becoming efficient, that is, his learning curve is increasing. What are all the factors that does not affect the learning curve? See, method of production. It will definitely affect the learning curve. Suppose method of production followed in June month is different and method of production followed in July month is different. Then what will happen? The person, that is employee who is working in June, will face difficulties for working in July because of change in method of production. If suppose that method of production is difficult to get adopted, so it will definitely affect the learning curve of the employee. Next, labor strike. Labor strike will definitely affect. If suppose labor is doing association is doing any strike, then what will happen? Labors will not work, whereas materials will be brought in. So the number of units that is produced will definitely fall down. So learning curve will get affected because of labor strike. Then shutdown. See, when shutdown of a particular organization, there won't be any other cost which is being incurred, that is variable cost. So because of that, the labor will not be recruited. When business is shut down, there won't be any effect of learning curve. It won't affect the learning curve. And then it affects efficiency rate. If suppose efficiency rate of an labor is falling, then learning curve will definitely get affected. So the right answer is option C, that is shutdown. When a particular business, that is organization or a firm is shut down, then it doesn't affect the learning curve. So with that, we have completed 60 MCQs. So see, right now you have only one option, that is you don't have any other option of sitting back and resting because it is online mode. They will change, or they'll change the date. It is not going to happen. Pakka, this time it is going to be online mode examination on the mentioned date. So prepare well. What you should do is, from now itself, that is from now, there are around 30 days left over. Not 30 days, actually 40 days for December 10. So if you use this 40 days very effectively, I swear you can definitely get more than the expectations. But the only thing is you should work hard. So if you really want to get benefited from this MCQ model, that is MCQ portal, just keep watching these videos and supporting us. Thank you.